This is episode number 262 with painter and author Aimee Erickson.
This is the Plein Air Podcast with Rhoads, publisher and founder of Plein Air magazine. In the Plein Air Podcast, we cover the world of outdoor painting. Called plein air, the French coined the term, which means open air or outdoors. The French pronounce it plein air. Others say plein air. No matter how you say it, there is a huge movement of artists around the world who are going outdoors to paint. And this show is about that movement. Now, here's your host, author, publisher, and painter, Rhoads.
Hey there, I'm Rhoads. Nice to see you today. Welcome to the Plein Air Podcast. I can't believe that it's fall already, and it's just like this year has just gone by lickety split. It's like 1 minute it was January, now all of a sudden it's the fourth quarter. It's just insane how quickly time is going. I had a little bit of time to paint this summer, but not as much as I wanted. I started out the summer with my Adirondack retreat, and that was in June. And then, I had some visitors. I got out painting a little bit, but certainly not as much as I ever wanted to. That's why I like these events where you can just kind of go in and paint and be consumed by it. I'm going to be going to the Laguna Invitational, La Papa Invitational. That's the first time I've been I guess first time I've been in 20 years. And then I've got Fall Color Week coming up, and I'm going to be painting there. So there's a little bit of painting happening. I'm in my studio in the Adirondacks at the moment, and it's starting to get cold and dreary, and the leaves are changing. It's absolutely beautiful. It is beautiful, even though cold and dreary. It's actually sunny now. And so, I'll be here just a little bit longer, but trying to get out and get into my boat and paint a couple more times. So that would be fun. I'm really grateful for you guys making this show a success. Without you sharing it, without you listening to it and giving positive reviews, leaving comments, we would be nowhere. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. At the end of the podcast, we will do the Art Marketing Minute, and that's designed to help you with your art marketing. We also do Art Marketing Mondays now on my YouTube show, which is called Art School Live. And so there's art marketing, a lot of art marketing. Yeah. If you want to tell us who you want to have as guests, or you want to give a comment, just email me, Eric at streamlinepublishing.com. Oh man, coming up, there's so much stuff coming up. Realism Live is something I'm pretty excited about. It is our online event. It is one of many. This one is focused on realism. Of course, there are many forms of realism. Realism meaning if you can tell what it is, it's realistic. If it's like experimental or abstract, it's typical. I mean, there is abstract within realism, but anyway, for instance, impressionism is realism, but so is tight academic work. And so we have a 3-day event, which is, and there's, by the way, there's an optional 4th day, essential techniques day for reminder, refresher, beginner, etc. And that contains all art demonstrations. And we have some of the world's leading artists who are going to be talking about figures and portraits and landscapes and still life and a lot of different mediums, whether it's oil, watercolor, pastel, gouache, etc. We've got a little bit of everything in there. Couple of round tables. It's really terrific. A little art history. It's a good thing, and it's immersion. Remember, I talked about the idea of just jumping in and being immersed in something. A lot of us are trying to up our game and get better, and yet we're not going through the steps that we need to go through. We just keep painting, hoping we're going to get better by experience alone. But when you study with the masters, some of the greatest artists in the world, and we literally have people teaching from all over the world, then what happens is by immersing yourself in it for 3-4 days, you all of a sudden start understanding concepts through repetition. Everybody has different ways and different approaches to it. And it's a really great way to up your game. And of course, you have to take the time. And so you can take the time off, or you can take the time and watch the replays, because it does come with replays. Anyway, that's coming up. It's called Realism Live, and you can learn more about it at realismlive.com. We are so excited. One of the things I failed to mention is when I go out to California for Fall Color Week, I'm also going to go after Fall Color Week. I'm going up to Lake Tahoe and Reno, and I'm going to be meeting with some local artists up there. And that's when we pick our painting locations. And there's so many beautiful locations on the lake with the mountains and it's going to be a beautiful time of year, springtime. And so the Plein Air Convention is coming up in Lake Tahoe and Reno, and that's coming up. Let's see, when is that? I don't know what the date. So the 19th through the 23rd of May. And so it's going to be our 11th or 12th, I think our 12th convention. And it's a ball. There's 5 stages. We have stages for oil, pastel, watercolor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And top painters, we got about 80 instructors. We also have people to work with you in the field. We call them field painters. And the idea is just to go there to get better, to paint with friends. And it's kind of like Thanksgiving for artists. It's like when the family gets together for plein air and you get to know people, you make friends. Mark Fellman was visiting me the other day, and he said, I've been to every single one. And I was so honored. And to know, and I said, why do you go back? He said, I go back because I get to see my friends and I get to up my game. I get to learn new things. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. Anyway, we are already like 65% sold out. It's hard to believe it's so far out, but get your ticket. It's going to be great. pleinairconvention.com. And then, of course, if you have not yet subscribed to Plein Air Magazine, we would love it if you would give it a shot. If you're into plein air, whether you're a collector, whether you're an artist, Plein Air Magazine is kind of the it place to be in terms of watching what's going on in the plein air world and getting to see great artists featured. Features people like Aimee Erickson, who you're going to meet in a minute. And so this is a great thing. Just subscribe at pleinairmagazine.com. Now, coming up after the interview with Aimee, I'm going to answer your art marketing questions in the Marketing Minute. You can send me your questions, eric@artmarketing.com. And you can also come on live if you want to. We have to arrange that. Okay. Okay. So my guest is Aimee Erickson. Aimee is a complete rock star. She is such a good painter. She is known for her engaging style, her versatility, and her subject matter. She's internationally renowned as an oil painter and instructor. She's given lectures all over, demos at great venues worldwide. And she lives in Portland, Oregon, and she always carries a sketchbook. And she's also got a new book out. I don't know how new it is. We're going to find it. Aimee, welcome to the Plein Air Podcast.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me.
So tell me, how recent is this book? Because I get things confused all the time.
Let's see. It'll be 2 years next April, so it's been out about 1.5 years.
It is one of the best.
Thank you.
I don't want to be the program that's the idea is to shill a book, but I am going to shill this book because if you're a plein air painter, this just kind of puts everything together for you. You want to just tell me quickly about the book and what your goal was?
My goal was to share the things that are the most important to me in painting and within the context of plein air painting. So I organize the chapters by different types of light. So once we get through, materials and then some composition, design, and color, then every chapter is a different kind of lighting.
Cool. Well, the name of the book, tell us the name of the book so that we know what to look for.
It's called Plein Air Techniques for Artists. And
Okay.
another thing that I am really proud of regarding this book is how many artists have contributed work to it. I have about 50 contributing artists.
I thought that was really remarkable because usually if there's a book, it's all the paintings are done by the artist, and you gave examples. If you were trying to make a point about somebody who did, let's say, edges, then you showed examples of other people's work talking about edges, showing
Yes,
it.
because when I'm thinking about a certain topic, often someone will come to mind who really nails that aspect of painting. And so I wanted their work in it.
How did this whole painting thing come about for you, Aimee? Have you always been an artist, always been interested in art?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started oil painting when I was 6 years old.
Really? Oil
Mm,
painting at 6?
I know. I know. So my mom was just really up for anything. In fact, your that beautiful introductory montage for the podcast and that music reminded me of my years in youth symphony playing the cello.
Really?
Yeah, she would just sign us up for stuff. Me and all my siblings, gymnastics, ballet, um, various music classes, and like she bought me a unicycle because I wanted I had got this idea that I wanted to learn how to ride a unicycle. I was also 6 at that point. Um,
Well, the question
and
is, can you oil paint from a unicycle?
yeah, no, but I can juggle on the unicycle.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
I haven't tried oil painting on the unicycle. I've seen James Gurney do it though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that you're a juggler, we have that in common, so we'll have to
Oh,
juggle together.
good. Can you pass?
I can pass, but it's been a
Okay.
while.
Right. It's been a while for
It
me too,
depends.
but
It really depends on the gravity because, like, I'm gonna see you in California in Laguna, and I think the gravity is a little worse in California, so I might
well,
drop a few more balls.
yes, at sea level, the gravity is a bit stronger. You'll weigh a little bit more too.
So, you started oil painting at 6. When did you start going outside?
That is a good question. I remember that when I signed up for a plein air painting workshop in Florence in 2003 as part of my um, midlife crisis. That I when I it was when I took 6 months off and rode my bicycle across America, and then I went to the Art Students League for a month, and then I went to Italy for a month, and
Okay, wait.
mhm,
We're just gonna rewind. You rode your bicycle across America?
mhm, I
Well,
did.
tell me about that. Was this designed to get away from something? Were you escaping your feelings or something? What was going on?
It was designed as an escape, but but the aim was to find my feelings because I didn't know completely who I was. I knew what I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to do, and I knew what all the organizations around me wanted from me. So I wanted to extricate myself from the trappings of my life and just see who I was on my own.
What did you learn?
Oh, I learned that I learned it,
Should
I
I
learned
not ask that question? Do you need an escape at this point?
no, I mean, it's just it's so much, it's just not very verbal. Um, I learned how to come home to myself. I learned how to let go of things that didn't really matter to me.
So, can you give examples of the type of things that you let go of?
Yes, I had been active in a religion up till that point, and I no longer was from that point forward.
Okay. Anything
Yeah.
else?
Um, I felt a freedom and a centeredness that I'd never really had.
And was this because you had so much alone time with yourself? You're riding a bicycle, I assume not on major highways.
Well, you'd be surprised. Like the route is marked, and they put you on secondary roads as much as possible. Backroads is the company that marks these bicycling routes across America,
Uh-huh.
and but there are places where there are no secondary roads, and you ride on the interstate. Not very many, but there are also lots of places where even the secondary roads are narrow and have no shoulder. So in terms of danger, it's not. It's not entirely safe, like, you're with traffic quite a bit of the time.
And were you by yourself or were you with others who were on a similar trek?
I was with others who were on a similar trek. I'd never done anything like that before. The longest ride I had done before that was Seattle to Portland, which is 200 miles, and we did it in 2 days. So I think, don't quote me on that. I'm bad with numbers.
And did you probably didn't have room to take your paints with you?
No, I definitely did. I took my watercolors and my sketchbook. So I have 2 sketchbooks from that trip.
Wow.
And I would just stop on the side of the road, pull my sketchbook out of my handlebar bag, put a little bit of my drinking water in my watercolors, and sketch standing up on my bike.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds like there's another book just to do a book on that sketchbook. And on that trip.
Maybe it was definitely important to me. I don't know how much it would mean to everybody else, but
I think it's fabulous. Somebody did a book about their trek across Spain, and they stopped and painted. I can't remember who it was. I apologize. They stopped and painted every 2 hours or every 4 hours or something, and it took several months. And then they did a book of it, and I thought, that's pretty cool. I think people would love to see that.
It definitely shows your progress as far as moving forward to stop and paint. But it's a lovely way to experience the world, as you know.
How long did it take to go cross country?
2 months.
Wow.
2 months. We averaged 60 miles a day and took a day off about every 10th day.
That's spectacular. That takes a special person to be able to do something like that. I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you, Eric. At the time I was just casting about for something that felt like it would help me get unstuck. Help me get unstuck, really. And it's interesting when you're riding a bicycle and camping and you have all your gear with you, you wake up in the morning and there's mountains on the horizon. You ride the flats all day and then you camp at the base of the mountains, and the next day you're climbing, and it's almost impossible to maintain a feeling that you're not moving forward in life because the landscape changes right in front of you every day.
Yeah. What a great experience. Wow.
Really,
yeah. How long ago did you do that?
That was 21 years ago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you have, I would like to know, there's so many different things that I'd like to know. I want to talk a little bit about some of your ideas about plein air painting, your thoughts about it. There's a lot of people have different feelings about it, getting over commercialized or a lot more people doing it now. So what's your feeling about the entire plein air movement? Because you've been doing it a long time. And things have changed considerably in the last 20 years since you went to Florence.
That's true. And it's delightful to me to see how many people are taking it up. So to your point that so many more people are doing it and it's so much more sort of in the public eye.
It's almost become like a sport, and I don't mean to diminish it in any way.
I mean, I don't think it does diminish it. I think that, for people for whom it's personal, it's still personal.
Yeah.
And you can take your gear and step out your door and find your world. It's always there. Honestly, my only concern, and it's not a huge one, is for people who start out painting. They're like, I'm going to take up painting and I want to do plein air painting, and they just don't know how hard it is. Like to me, it's like, if you're a swimmer, it's like swimming in the ocean as opposed to swimming in a swimming pool. You have to deal with the elements, and the stuff will come and knock you over, and there's tides and there's big weather, and and you need all the skills to do it. Not to say that you can't go out there as a beginner. You definitely can.
Well,
It's a matter
let's
of
put this
managing
into a different
expectations.
context. If you knew how hard the bike trip was going to be, because it was a lot harder than you ever imagined it would be, right?
No, no,
No, it
no,
wasn't.
I wouldn't really
Okay.
say that. There were unexpected things, but th but no, I mean, in that I don't think that's the I know what you're saying
Yeah,
to find that, like, if you don't know, then you'll go ahead and try, and I think that's applicable for plein air painting.
yeah, and I think that's really important. I mean, y- everybody has to go through pain and growth, pain to get to growth, and no matter what they do, plein air painting is hard. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
Uh, and but at least you're painting, right? At least you're struggling with something that's fun, something that is enjoyable. Um, it's not as much fun for me working out and struggling with weights, right? So I
right.
think that there's positive benefits to it, but I get what you're saying, and I think
Well,
that's right. There is a lot of people who are like, oh, this is going to be fun and this is going to be easy, and they get surprised.
and my point isn't that they shouldn't do it. My point is not to warn people off, it's to at all. My point is just I think I I just don't like to see people discouraged early. So,
So how
it's
do you prevent that?
well, manage your expectations up front. You know, if you're not a painter, then there's some materials ground you have to cover, some technical ground you have to cover, and you just do very simple paintings so that you can not be managing 18,000 things at once.
I had an instructor who a long, long time ago, he said, "What I'm going to teach you is hard." He said, "But I'm going to be there with you every step of the way, and when it gets hard, I'm going to help you get through it, but you have to know it's hard." And for somehow that helped because I had some friends who went to a class and they gave up because it was too hard.
Yeah.
So sometimes that helps. Um, so let's talk about you had a pretty cool thing just happen to you. You were part of an exhibit, a French moderns exhibit at the Portland Museum of Art. Let's talk about that. I think that's pretty remarkable. That would be a career milestone as far as I'm concerned.
It was a high point. The Portland Art Museum is hosting the Monet to Matisse exhibition on loan from the Brooklyn Museum. And in order to activate the exhibition space, they invited me and one other painter, Bhavani Krishnan, on different days to come into the museum, go into the gallery with the French Impressionists, and set up my plein air gear, and then paint for 3 or 4 hours. And the idea was that people coming in to the exhibition would have a way to a new way to access the exhibition and to understand painting. And in fact, at one point, a woman who had been watching said to me, "I'm watching you paint, and I understand the Cézanne."
So you were painting next to what were you set up or what was close to you?
There was a Renoir,
Uh-huh.
and to my right, there was a Cézanne. To my left, there was a Boldini. Across the way, there was a Degas on the way in. On the wall, on the opposite side of the wall to my right, there was a Sisley, one of Monet's paintings of the cathedral in the mist.
And Rowan, yeah.
Yeah,
And what were you painting?
I decided to paint the scene in the gallery. I wanted it to be accessible to people. I wanted them to be able to say, "Oh, what are you painting?" And then to find it in the gallery, that, "Oh, it's actually this scene." So I painted a scene of, of a young woman looking at the Cézanne painting, they painted the walls in the gallery, these pastel shades of blue and lavender, just beautiful. So it's a very floaty, airy space. And so I had a model come in and she posed for me and stood in front of the Cézanne, and I painted her. And then there's a few other paintings in the background.
So you painted the Cézanne as well, with the model. So that must have been fun.
It was so fun. It really was so uplifting. Just a lot of joy. And it was a free day at the museum. So once, I got to set up before the museum was open. So I was in there alone with my gear and these paintings. And then it filled up, and there were, probably 2,500 people through the museum that day. I had to add an extra light on my easel because the lighting in the gallery is meant to go onto the paintings. I was in kind of a dark spot, so I got a foldable music light.
Oh yeah, those are great.
To clamp on my easel, which was great. Yeah.
And how long? So you had to paint your model around crowds, right? Because you're painting the model. Did you try to block her in before the crowds came in?
I did. Yes. It was one of those paintings where I kind of sketched out what the whole scene would be just lightly. And then I started in the middle and worked out. She also wasn't able to stay the whole time. So, but she was only standing about, 8 feet away from me. And there were times when I couldn't see her at all because it was so crowded.
Yeah.
And the other thing was I was facing to the side just because of the traffic flow patterns. I didn't want to create bottlenecks against artwork. And so, you know how it is in plein air painting, onlookers sometimes get confused because they assume that you're facing your subject.
Right.
And if you're turning your head 90 degrees to look at it, it's kind of revelatory for people to realize that your subject isn't straight ahead of you like it is with a camera.
Yeah, well, I think that people would be clearly confused about that. So did you have any experiences with the crowd? You mentioned the one woman. Did you have a lot of interaction with the crowd?
A lot. Yeah. That was kind of a dual purpose to the exhibit. It was, or to me being there, was not just to finish a painting. So I made a lot of time to talk to people and answer questions and let them step up close to the painting and see what it looked like up close. Yeah.
So let's transition that discussion into a discussion about when you're outside painting and the same thing happens. How do you deal with that?
So those conversations are a little bit different because that's not the reason I'm there usually. I don't mind. I'll usually say hello to people, but I don't really turn my full attention to someone who's approaching me while I'm painting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So would your goal to be to not talk to people? I know artists, for instance, they'll put some headphones in their ears, even if they're not listening to anything, just so they don't get bothered or interrupted. I think that a lot of people who are listening to this face these issues and don't know how to deal with them because they may be new to this. What are your best tips?
It's an interesting question because if you really don't want to interact with people, headphones are a great strategy. And I've met people while I'm painting and had lovely exchanges. So I'm not, but there are also times when I'm really focused and just like cannot pull my eyes off my painting. And I don't want to, and it is an interruption. People are so, people will come up to me and say, "Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt you, but
I'm interrupting you."
Yeah. Well,
to me, that's part of the joy of the whole thing. Is sometimes I don't get anywhere with my painting, but I meet people that I never would meet otherwise, talk to people I never would talk to otherwise.
yeah.
And to me, it's a great opportunity to evangelize for plein air painting. And especially if they have kids, to me, I love if they have kids, I'll say, "Hey, can I give your kid a quick lesson?" And then they'll hold them up, and I'll show them how to do the brush and let them paint on my painting. And I don't care if they screw it up because I can fix it. But my goal is to get people interested. So that's different, though. If you're out there trying to especially if you're in a competition, you've got to get a finished work and it's got to be good.
I
It's
was
a
gonna
little
say
different.
that does change the situation a little bit. There was one time I was painting in Yosemite with Carl Bretsky, and there's a lot of people come from other countries to see that amazing place, and people were stopping and talking to us in languages from all over the globe with a sense of utter joy. They in fact, one German couple stopped and she said to me, she looked at, I was painting. She said, "Do you do this just for joy?" And I said, "Yes." Yes.
Yeah. Well, it is joyful, isn't it?
Isn't that a wonderful question?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't want to digress, and I'll be quick, but I was painting with Richard Lindenberg. We were painting in Banff and Lake Louise, and there were a lot of tourists around, busloads of tourists. I don't know where they were from. And these two guys kept standing there and they were talking. I couldn't understand them. They're looking at us and talking, and they're strategizing on something. Next thing you know, there's a guy standing there with the camera. The other guy comes and checks me, literally checks me out, grabs my brush, checks me, and takes his picture at my painting.
Oh, Eric,
So
that
that
happened to me one time. This Chinese couple came up to me in Monterey, and she just grabbed my brush and posed like she was painting my painting, and he was taking pictures, and they were overjoyed. They were having a blast, and I was it's
well,
funny
they
one.
probably didn't know how to ask you, because so this was a solution. So one of the things that I love about plein air painting are the memories that come with them. Specifically, memories like I can look at any painting on my walls and go, "Oh, I was painting with this group here. I was in this demonstration here. I remember painting there. There was a deer that leaped in front of me." Are there are there the kinds of memories like that come to you, and do any come to mind that are really special? Plein air experiences?
Oh gosh, there have been so many. I will say that I know that feeling that you're saying of seeing a painting and it bringing back the whole experience, but I have also had the experience of seeing a painting and having no recollection at all of doing it in my own studio. Like, "Oh, that one doesn't look familiar." Um, I have one in here now that's pretty special to me. That is a little study that I did at the fashion studio in Taos, and I did it last year. It's special to me because, art crosses borders, and Nikolai Fashion emigrated from Russia and lived in New York for a bit, and then lived in Taos and built his home and studio. And I was there with the group of artists from Turkmenistan, which we had done a cultural exchange. So it was their turn to visit, and I was hosting, and we visited the fashion house. And of course, the Turkmenistan used to be a Soviet republic.
Right.
It's how that area of the world was modernized in the 1920s. And so the painting tradition in Turkmenistan is Russian. The Russians established the painting schools, and their training is Russian. And it's so clear when you see how they work. The Russian influence it's what they do. So to be at the fashion studio with these artists from this other part of the world, and Zufar Bikbov was there translating. We also had a translator who was a retired language professor. But it just felt like this really special meeting across cultures and across the world, where art was the thing that joined us. Literally, oil paint was right there. That we all practice that in different ways. So that's a special one.
Well, that's special on so many different levels because also you're in Fession's studio, you're surrounded by his work and I mean, even his woodwork, right? The beautiful stairway that he built in the studio and so on. So, you mentioned that, it's very clear that the Russians work in a particular way. Was there anything about that you found completely different than what you do?
Um, so in, mm,
Sorry to
uh,
put you on the spot.
that's okay. No, it's a really good question. I feel like there's the way I would characterize the Russian approach to plein air painting is just extremely dynamic, very bold, very confident. They tend to paint quickly. There's yeah, it's very forward moving in a way that captures it, so much dynamic
You're not
power.
overthinking things quickly and thickly.
That's right.
Totally.
And when you watch them, you might get the sense that they're just flinging paint. It's kind of like watching Eric Jacobson. He kind of paints like this too. He's very influenced by the Russian way of painting. And it's possible to watch him and just think, he's just flinging it. He's just like just scribbling but his mind is working so fast, and his hand can keep up with it. But there's so much knowledge encapsulated in every movement that it just can happen really quickly when there's that much know-how.
Well, you teach a lot. What do you find are the things that most of the students are struggling with that you're trying to help them overcome? And what are the things that you recommend to students to try to push themselves to the next level?
That's such a good question. I do teach a lot. Um, and I've been doing a lot of online teaching lately since I started the paint club, and we meet live twice a month and do lessons and painting and things. And I honestly, Eric, I find that I think it's useful to know where you are. And you talk about pushing to the next level, and I think you and I have talked about this before, where I think it can be very beneficial to not be pushing too hard, like to just focus on the one thing that's next for you and know where your comfort zone is and expand one thing so that you don't get overwhelmed. Now, that's different for different people because some people like more pressure, like you. I remember you like painting under pressure. You like trying really hard. Am I right?
Yeah, well, sometimes.
Yeah, so I like to do easy exercises where it's not me trying to explain to them something that they have to intellectually take in and and remember. I like to set it up so that they're mixing paint and making decisions, and it puts them in that place of paying attention. And when they get to the end of it, they're like, "Oh, I just learned a lot, a lot."
Well, I just conducted a workshop with a group of people here in the Adirondacks, and I I broke it down as much as I could like that because it's too overwhelming, especially if you're new, to look at a landscape and go, I got to figure out how to paint the distance, the mountain, the tree, the rock, the water. There's a lot of stuff going on,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I just basically said, okay, on this one, we're going to just focus on this one thing. So is that what you mean? Is like if you want to tell your students, okay, today we're going to paint a rock.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, exactly that. It can, and you can simplify your painting in a lot of ways, right? Like you're reminding me of when I did take that class in Florence. Joe Paquette was the instructor.
Ah, he's brilliant.
Yes. And on our first day out, he said, we were at the Piazzale Michelangelo overlooking the entire city of Florence, and he said, pick one house and one tree. And that was really useful because it's easy to get overwhelmed by subject matter. But you can also simplify your painting in other ways, right? You can simplify your palette. You can work in, one color plus white, or you can work in two colors plus white and explore, the warm, cool aspect of something. You can, paint with a bigger brush. That forces you to simplify. So there's more than one way to find your way in. And that's really, for me, that's the magic that nobody can do for you, is to find that little thread that is your way into your painting.
So then what would you say if you were giving advice to anybody listening who is like, I want to try this plein air thing and I don't want to struggle too much too fast. What's your best advice?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked. I have very good advice for people who want to start and don't know where. Get 50 panels and prep them, and they should be small-ish, like 6x8 or 8x10. And get one brush that you like, and choose like maybe 5 colors, and plan on doing 50 paintings before you assess anything. Just go out and paint for 2 hours, and then you're done for the day. Then do the next one. And then after you've done 50, you can line them up and think about it, but don't overthink it too soon.
That's a big task.
It takes the pressure off a single painting to be anything too special. It puts it in a place where, like, it's just today's painting and I can lay down some paint and see what happens. But I also know that I'm going to do another painting tomorrow or next week. So it sets it up as a longer on-ramp instead of...
You're developing muscle memory.
Yeah.
You're developing, if by limiting yourself to time, you're developing, you get to a point where you can't overwork everything. So I think it's a great exercise.
Those kinds of limitations are really good. I think,
Yeah.
you can limit your number of brush strokes or the time. Yeah. I have one student, Tess, she was doing 500 paintings before that was just her goal, 500 paintings, and she just numbered them. And she was doing great. She was in the 300s at the point that we talked about it.
Awesome.
I know.
Yay, Tess.
I know.
Well, I think that's absolutely fabulous. Talk to me about composition. Nobody talks about composition enough, and you are so good. You've got a wonderful section in your book about that. Talk to me about composition technique, what you really like to emphasize when you're thinking about composition.
So composition, I'll tell you, it's a little bit reactionary, my stance on composition, because there are so many rules. And I've seen students, a rule is something that's so easy to remember, like don't put your subject dead center. But those rules are oversimplified and can be a bit of a red herring because they don't always apply, right? So what we need is a broader way to understand how to structure the space within the format. So composition starts with the 4 sides of the picture. And if you look at a blank canvas, take a square one, a portrait rectangle, and a landscape rectangle. They feel different from the start. You can look at the shapes alone, just the square and the rectangle, and feel how they are different from each other. And that ability to feel shape is something that it behooves us to build. We want to build that sensitivity, because composition really is just a complicated version of what's happening within the space. But if you can feel it, then that's really what it's all about. Because a strong composition is one that feels really good. It feels solid. It feels like it has direction. It feels like it has movement. You don't get stuck in any one place. But there's unlimited ways to get to that point. And I feel that the rules are a red herring. They put you in a place where you're following something that you've been told instead of centering yourself on something that you can actually tell for yourself.
Well, I like to I like to refer to them as guidelines.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they are helpful guidelines that work really well in some situations.
So I do on Feedback Fridays on my Art School Live daily show. I do a lot of composition work, and I'll take paintings and I'll critique them. And I'm always saying, the rule is, or the guideline is, don't put it dead center. But sometimes somebody puts it dead center and it just absolutely works. And, so you have to look at them as guidelines, because sometimes, that's the only place that's going to work for a certain composition.
Right. Right. And I think that it can be helpful too to think of composition as occurring on a scale from dynamic to static, and that the extreme end of dynamic is chaos, and the extreme end of static is boring. But before you get to boring, there's calm, and so we're looking to land somewhere in the interesting zone. So you're moving things around and arranging them. I think one of the most important things is the realization that you can move things around a lot more than you think. People take reality for granted. This is where the thing is, and there's so much more leeway when it comes to putting things where you want them.
Well, I hear from purists, and I'm not being critical of them, but some purists are like, it's not a plein air painting if you move a tree or you move a mountain, or it's not a plein air painting if it's not done in one session. It's not a plein air painting if you work on it after you get it back to the studio. How do you feel about those comments?
Uninterested. I don't really have any skin in the game to like define what it is.
I mean, the goal is to do a great painting.
Yeah, or just to get out there and like enjoy the world and lay down some color. Sometimes you just need to lay down some color and then you feel fine.
Yeah, just go out for joy.
Yeah. But I think that shows in your painting too, if there is joy in the process, that it gets into your painting.
You wanted to talk about a painting that you did called The Yellow Cup. And I'm curious what it is that you wanted to talk about the painting. It's for those who are watching on our video version, you'll be able to see it. For those of you who are not, Aimee's going to describe what it is about this painting, which is absolutely lovely.
Well, thank you, Eric. It's a 24 by 36, and it's a studio piece. It's interesting. I thought it would be fun to talk about because a lot of my work I do in one go. That's smaller work, and I'll just do the study, and it comes out how I like it, and I'm happy. And this one went through a lot more stages, and basically meaning I repainted the whole thing. I don't even know how many times. I did do a setup in my studio, and it's quite a complicated setup. It probably has 30 things in it. And it's on a table that's reflective, and it's backlit. So it's against a window and the light's coming toward us. There's some big glass vessels, a potted plant, there's some fruit, and then of course there's the yellow cup. So I was trying to figure out how to get the painting to work. I sometimes will take an out of focus photo of the scene that I'm looking at because it generalizes. So it takes out detail when you
kind of like squinting down.
It is kind of like squinting. Yeah. It's a lot like squinting. Yeah. Kind of generalizes things and lumps things together by value, which is useful. And you can trick your cell phone into doing this by waving it around, but the better way is to get an app. I use an app called Camera Plus Legacy that has a manual focus slider, so you can control it, and I find it very useful. At the start of this painting, the canvas was painted pink, and my idea was to keep some of the pink, even though the setup was mostly blues and greens. And that ultimately did not work. I
Well,
ultimately repainted it and repainted it and repainted it and ended up keeping the pink sort of in the center section. So unusual solution for me was to just go ahead and impose color zones in this painting, a green one on the left, a turquoise one on the right, and sort of a more natural pink one down the middle.
well, it's something that for people who want to see it, I, look at your Instagram page or at your website or something, because if you have not been able to see it here, it's just spectacular.
Thank you, Eric.
It's hard to make a complicated, busy painting look right. You've done an incredible job of leading people into the yellow cup. Um, the the reflections are killer. The light coming through the glass is amazing. It's just spectacular.
Thank you.
What else you want to talk about?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Laguna. Talk about that?
Well, yeah, that's exciting. You've painted Laguna, I think you said 5 times?
It's like you could not remember, Eric, how many plein air conventions there are. Where you were saying, I think 12. I was like, see, I don't remember exactly how many of everything I've done either.
They all kinda
But
run
yeah, 5,
together.
6. Laguna is such a great event. I have felt so lucky to be a part of it. And of course, the scenery down there is beautiful, and they have a great group of artists. And I think you're going to really have a good time.
I am looking forward to it. I don't know if I ever told you this, but, back before I became a plein air painter, I just happened to be in Laguna during the event, and, I didn't see anybody. I don't think I saw anybody painting. I just happened to see the museum show, and I walked in, I thought, "These paintings are different."
Mm.
And, and I didn't buy one, and there was one that I loved that I regret not buying. Stepped outside with my wife to talk about it. We came back, it was gone. And for us at the time, we had no money and had no ability to, so spending a few $100s was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was just such a spectacular event. And I don't know that it even registered with me for a while until much later when I started digging into the whole plein air thing. And so I'm very much looking forward because I don't think I've been back. I went one time when I decided to launch Plein Air magazine. I took some brochures that had uh, a dummy cover with a different logo, and it had a Camille Preswatic on the cover. And I took that around to kind of talk to people about what I was going to do, and everybody's like, "Yeah, right, you're going to do that, sure." Um, so I'm very much looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing you there, and maybe we'll get a chance to paint.
I would love
Um,
that.
you have any travel coming up other than that?
Yes, I'm planning. Susie Baker and I are going to go paint in Spain.
Ah, can I come?
I know, in southern Spain. We're going to go to Granada. We're going to go to Olvera, which is a tiny town where some friends of ours live. I haven't really spent that much time in Spain. I've been in northern Spain, but I've never really spent time in southern Spain. So I'm looking forward to it. We're going to try to pack up a smallish kit. That's always the thing, if you want to do oil, you have to figure out a way to pack all your paintings. So,
Yeah. So have you got any creative ideas?
well, I do sometimes oil paint in my sketchbook, and that's been really great for travel. I shellac the pages in my sketchbook, and although the Moleskine heavy sketch is so it's got like a heavy size on it already, so I've also oil painted directly on that paper. That's my best way to travel light with oil paints. Just take a small setup and paint in my sketchbook.
Yeah.
Um, it means that you have a cherished sketchbook and nothing to hang on the wall.
Yeah, well, that kind of takes some pressure off, I suppose.
Yes.
I had an artist one time told me he takes linen that's not mounted to panels. He cuts them in squares and he puts Velcro in the back of them. And then he has a Velcro panel and he sticks them on. And then he has a Velcro sheet and he hangs them up on a shower curtain and he sticks them on there to dry. That way he can stack, 50 of them in a 2-inch
Oh
2-inch
my
space.
goodness.
That's too much
Oh,
work.
I have another one. And you know what? Ray Roberts does this too. There's a substrate called multimedia artboard,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
great.
terrific. It's a resin impregnated paper, so it's rigid but brittle. And you can now buy from the manufacturer. They make it with linen, primed linen already adhered to it.
Yep.
What I used to do is glue muslin down to it and gesso and tone it myself. But it is great because it's the thickness is like thick paper.
Yeah.
So you can pack so many more of them.
Yeah, the only thing that is not a positive about those, and they are fabulous, and they're a customer, and I have some right here, and I take them when I travel, is that if you use a typical panel carrier, if you're slipping them into a panel carrier, they bend and they end up touching each other because it's not a very stiff surface. So you've got to figure out a way to overcome that. Maybe they'll come up with something, but great idea.
Yeah. Well, we could write a book about the different ways that paintings have changed in transit while wet.
Well, usually not to the benefit of the painting.
No, but you know what? One time I had a painting in the back of my car and a stool rolled across it and across another painting and then rolled back and transferred from one painting to the other. And one of my painting buddies, whose opinion I value very highly, later when it was in my studio, pointed at that mark and said, I really like this mark. And you know what, Eric, I was like, I've been trying too hard. I'm controlling this way too much. I need more accidental stuff, because he was right. It looked really good.
Do you ever deconstruct paintings?
Yes.
I think that that's been one of the great lessons for me, is the idea of, I was painting in New Zealand, and Mitch Netto, I was looking at my painting and it was just too hyper realistic and,
Yeah.
too tight. And I just said, I'm going to repaint it. And so I scraped it down, and then my buddy Mitch said, don't touch it. It's perfect. So just by scraping it down, it just gave it that texture it needed, that life it needed.
Yes. This is a great thing to know that you can do. Sometimes it's midway through a painting. You take some paint off. The thing is, like, a lot of people are just like giving up, and scraping is a little bit different from knowing that you can scrape to move forward, right? And like pay attention and see what happens. And but yeah, I've almost never seen scraping happen where it didn't make the painting better.
The other thing that's been really interesting, I'm working on a gallery show, and I had a painting that the gallery wanted, but it wasn't finished yet. And I started working on it, and I really screwed it up, and I didn't like it. And so I waited for it to dry, and I took it out and I sanded it down. And I didn't sand it all down. I just kind of sanded some of it down, and it really came alive. And it's like, I just want to varnish it the way it is. It was really interesting and fun. Didn't look like any of the others, but sometimes that's what it takes. Well, Aimee, this has been delightful. I'm looking forward to seeing you at La Papa. I want to congratulate you again on everything that you're doing. Your book, I want to pull that up again, is amazing. It's called Plein Air Techniques for Artists. And I don't typically promote things too much, but I think this is something that's well worth everybody getting, because it's different. It has these examples of other artists and what they've done. And sometimes it's important to see that. So you're trying to figure out something about light, and you see 5 examples of somebody else who's done it, just really makes a big difference. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. All right. Thank you, Aimee. Bye-bye. All right. Well, that was Aimee Erickson, and we want to thank her again. Don't forget her book, Plein Air Techniques for Artists. Now it's time for the Art Marketing Minute.
This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art, Proven Techniques to Turn Your Passion into Profit.
So if you have questions, you can email them, eric@artmarketing.com. By the way, artmarketing.com is a really great resource. There's a lot of articles on there about marketing your art, and a good place to kind of poke around. And so check it out. If you guys ever want to come live on the podcast to record your questions, I do a lot of live on the weekday Monday marketing show for Art School Live on YouTube. Here's a question from Linda Jekarek from Virginia. I'm seeing these for the first time, by the way. The question is, pricing and how to use social media effectively are always a struggle. Any suggestions? Well, those are two big questions, two questions that deserve a lot of time on their own. Pricing is the most difficult thing other than learning to paint that I think artists have to deal with. And pricing has a lot to do with the environment that the painting is sold in. Keep that in mind. That now, if you were selling paintings at a high-end show filled with multimillionaires and they were selling $20 paintings, people aren't going to buy them because they're not going to think they're any good. And but if you're selling paintings at the farmer's market or the flea market or something, that's going to be a different story too. So environment, the type of gallery you're in, if you're in a gallery, the environment makes a big difference. And so always think in terms of environment. Now, you should typically not, I don't like to have rules, but I like to have guidelines. You typically should have your prices be your prices so that somebody, especially if you're a gallery artist, if your paintings are in a gallery in Wisconsin and they're in a gallery in California and you can look them all up online, you want to have, similar pricing so that a 9x12 is the same as a 9x12. Now, there are exceptions to that because sometimes I'll work on a painting for 100 hours and I want to get more money for it. And so that would be an exception because not all paintings are equal, even if they're equal in size. And then there's all kinds of great books on pricing, but pricing is about kind of testing the market, putting it out there, starting a little higher. If it sells well, move it up a little higher more. If it sells well, move it up a little higher more. If it doesn't sell well, move it down a little bit. And also build in a little room for negotiation because sometimes people need to negotiate. And some people can afford it, but they won't buy unless they can get a better deal. So just build in a little of that into your pricing. In terms of social media, in terms of effectively doing social media, there's courses on this. It's not an easy task to just give you an answer to this. But I will tell you this. There's a couple of things about social media. First off, what I'm learning is that it depends on what you're posting on. So if you're posting on X, formerly Twitter, then you can post 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day because it moves very fast. If you're focusing on Instagram, experts say once, maybe twice a day. If you're focusing on Facebook, 3, 4 times a day is fine. But it depends because there are what we call time zones or the times when people tend to check. The masses, there are times when the masses are there, and the masses are typically there before work, during lunchtime, and after work. And so the busiest time for social media typically is after work. Now, different time zones are going to see things different ways. And so, it's 9 o'clock in New York, it's 6 o'clock in Laguna. So, you want to kind of time things to the time when the audience that you're trying to reach is most important. And then keep your content focused on what you want your content to be known for. So if you, for instance, are a painter and you want to be known as a painter for collectors or finished paintings, then, only put finished paintings on there. Or maybe you painting in a location with that painting and the finished painting. I don't like progress shots typically because most people don't read that it's in progress and they look at it and they go, it's not done. Or they'll look at it and go, oh, it's not good. So be careful about sharing progress shots. If you have a social media account that your primary purpose is to sell paintings, then don't show pictures of food or your cat. Keep it all about paintings. And then, you can talk about the stories of the paintings. You can ask people for comments. You can even say, this one's available. Sometimes I wouldn't put that in the main post, but I put it in the first comment. So, by the way, this is available, right? That way you're not being too salesy, but that's just a matter of opinion. So there's a ton of other things. Social media is ever changing. You just got to study it all the time. Hashtags were all the rage. Now they're not. They don't matter anymore because AI is kind of picking up and running with things. And so that changes a lot. Second question comes from Pat Watham in Louisiana. Pat says, how do you get more eyeballs on your Instagram posts that will lead to serious potential buyers? Well, it's really the same question. The way to get eyeballs is to get people to you got to post frequently. You got to just because you post something doesn't mean you can't repost it. I post things sometimes the same thing 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year at different times because I want to be talking about things that are going on or things that I'm doing or things that are paintings that I've done. And you don't always know who's going to see them. So the algorithm at Facebook, and this is constantly changing, but Facebook typically, if you have, let's say you have 5,000 followers, Facebook is only going to show that to 200, maybe 100 followers, 1, 2, 3%, maybe not even that. And if there's a lot of interaction, if if people make comments, if if you're responding to comments, if people are engaged, or if people share it a lot, then they will show it to a couple hundred more people. And then if that continues, they'll show it to more and more. So the idea is you want to look for ways to get engagement, which is why asking questions, do not be so bold as to say, hey, give me a like or something like that, because that's considered clickbait. But you can just, you can ask a question, what does this painting remind you of? And that way you get engagement. Or does anybody know where this painting was done? Or, something like that. So you just get people talking and then make sure you respond. That's one of the best ways to get eyeballs, because I even learned recently that even if you have a Facebook group, like I have Facebook groups, I have dozens of them for some of the various things that we do. Like we have a private Facebook group for Fall Color Week, which is coming up. And as a result, only those people can see it. But Facebook doesn't even push it out to all of them. I thought they did. They only push it out to 5 or 6% of those. And again, if there's engagement, they'll push it out to more. So you're not even guaranteed that if you're in a group that everybody's going to see everything. So keep that in mind. Okay, well, anyway, that's the Art Marketing Minute. I do Art Marketing Mondays on my show, Art School Live. You can find that on YouTube, and we do a whole lot more there. So anyway, there we go, Art Marketing Minute.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.
I want to thank you guys for listening. I hope this is helping. Aimee Erickson is absolutely amazing. Make sure you check her out. Check her out on Instagram, her website, and everything. And she is a great leader in this industry. It's not an industry, this movement. And so she's terrific. I want to thank her for doing this again today. Thank you guys for being here. If you like, you share, you comment, it's a good thing for us. That's how we spread. We've had millions of downloads of this show, but we'd like more people to learn plein air painting or to get interested in it, to explore it. The plein air movement is exploding across the world, and we like to be there for them and help people understand it by listening to other artists or watching them. If you want to watch the version on YouTube, then you're going to learn from them and growing from them. They're terrific. So thank you again. A reminder, Pastel Live is coming up. That's just around the corner. That's pastellive.com. And then we've got Realism Live coming up. Realism Live is learning more about realism. That's at realismlive.com. We'd love for you to come to the Plein Air Convention, pleinairconvention.com. And last but not least, get your subscription to Plein Air Magazine. You will enjoy it. Kelly Kane and Sherry Dawn Haas and the team, they do a really terrific job. That's pleinairmagazine.com. If you've not seen my blog, I have one every Sunday. It's called Sunday Coffee, and you can find it and subscribe to it for free at coffeewitheric.com. Very rarely has anything to do with art. It usually has to do with, I kind of write it for my kids, lessons that I've learned, and I just started sharing it with people and it spread. So anyway, it's pretty cool. Daily, Facebook, YouTube, Art School Live. Check it out. Hundreds of artists doing demonstrations. We actually do on Mondays, we do art marketing Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we do free lessons. And then Fridays, I do feedback Fridays. I'm going to be gone for a while because I'm taking these trips. And so I may have some guest hosts and they do a better job than I do. So that's actually to your benefit. But if you go to YouTube, go to Art School Live and hit the subscribe button, that's pretty cool. And if you would do me a favor and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, etc., that would be nice. It's at Eric Rhoads, Rhoads. And I am the publisher and founder of Plein Air Magazine and a proud painter. And I'd like you to become a painter too. That would be really cool if you're not already. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for listening. I'm honored that you would take the time. And while you're here, listen to some more podcasts. Remember, it's a big world out there. Go paint it. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
This has been the Plein Air Podcast with Plein Air Magazine's Eric Rhoads. You can help spread the word about plein air painting by sharing this podcast with your friends. And you can leave a review or subscribe on iTunes so it comes to you every week. And you can even reach Eric by email, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Be sure to pick up our free ebook, 240 plein air painting tips by some of America's top painters. It's free at pleinairtips.com. Tune in next week for more great interviews. Thanks for listening.